Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club, and it's time once again for a postcard of the week. And this week, we're happy to have Rob McInnes here, all the way from Canada. And let me just say that I saw a version of this presentation several weeks or months ago now at the Toronto Postcard Club meeting. And I was so impressed with the material that he explained and told about that I thought that our Wichita Postcard Club members would enjoy it too. But we're pleased to have him here today. And Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit, maybe how you got into postcards, and then show us a postcard if you have that will make the postcard of the week this time. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks so much, Hal. It's a pleasure being here, and it was a pleasure to get an invitation from Wichita. I actually have some distant relatives who live there. And I guess I got into postcard collecting a little more than a quarter of a century ago. And at that point, I was living in California. I'm a Canadian, but I fell in love with somebody in California, so I moved down there for 10 years. And then I hauled her back up to Winnipeg, Canada, which was a real shock, and she's actually stopped crying after 3 years. Anyways, I'm really happy to be here, and that was back in when I was in California. It was a little town called Santa Cruz, which I think is the most amazing little town I've ever been to, and I loved it there as well. But I was very homesick, and one day I walked into a antique store in downtown Santa Cruz, and I saw some postcards. I was just poking around, and I came up with one from my hometown from like 1910 or something. And I thought, I think I should collect these things. And it was a great way to deal with my homesickness. So that's how I started collecting postcards. It was actually one particular building that I was thinking I would collect as many as possible. Well, that expanded into collecting cards from all across Canada. And then after a few years, I realized I can't financially maintain this. So I focused back on my province, which is Winnipeg, and also the little town of towns of Kenora and Keewatin, which I knew since my early childhood and loved very much. And that's the reason I developed this particular presentation. So should we move into the card that we have for today?
Sure. Please show us.
Great. This card, I think, is really representative of the area in a lot of ways. The boat that you see there is actually at a dock just off the main street of the town of Kenora, and it served. It's called the Argyle, and it served for decades as the main method of transportation for people between who lived in Kenora or Keewatin, because they were only a few miles apart, but the land transportation was pretty primitive. So they took a ferry back and forth to visit each other and do shopping and things like that. And that was its purpose for many, many years. It eventually was replaced by another boat, which was oddly enough called the Argyle II, which continued in that fashion, although in later years, it also served as a tourist attraction, and people could pay to go on an excursion on the lake in that boat. And later on, it also met an unfortunate demise and was replaced by the current boat, which is called the Kenora, original name. Anyways, so that's the boat. And you'll notice a number of things. Somebody just recently pointed out to me that the boat itself appears to be in black and white while the rest of the card is in color, and asked why. And I suggested probably because they just didn't want to bother painting it. It was white, by the way, with a little bit of trim, and I'm not sure the exact color. But you'll also notice on the boat that there's an American flag flying front and center. And you'll notice if you look carefully at the back of the boat, there's a portion of the British flag flying. And those were in the days before Canada had its own flag, and we used to fly the British flag. So if there's on Lake of the Woods, this Kenora and Keewatin towns we're going to be looking at. And but the boats like the Argyle, which was a steamship, often made runs down to the US because the lake that they're on, Lake of the Woods, a good portion of it is down in the US. And that's why those two flags are flying, because they want to have the right flag flying. I don't know if they've steered the ship backwards coming into Canada, so the Canadian flag was in the front. But anyways, that's why they're there. The boat that is, or the building that the boat is parked beside, is the Kenora Rowing Club. And in my presentation, we'll see some more pictures of that. It was a very, very popular part of the Kenora social life, and both in winter and summer, oddly enough.
Great, Rob. Thank you. And we're looking forward to seeing you this coming Saturday, September 2, and come at 1:45 Central Time. We have club members and friends that watch us and are a part of our monthly club meeting all over the country. And so keep in mind the various time frames that we have to cross. But we're Central, 1:45 Central Time, and then our meeting and presentation will begin around 2 o'clock. So we'll look for you there. And thanks, Rob, for coming today. And we look forward to seeing you Saturday. Okay, thank you.